Hi gang, Rob here. It is 1 April 2013 and this is going to be a good old-fashioned knife review. And despite the date, it will not be an April Fool's joke. The knife we're going to talk about today is the outstanding and discontinued Spyderco Superleaf. Let's get right into it. I'm going to try to do this in one part, and I'm going to try to do this excellent knife justice. The Superleaf, as I said, is discontinued. Not sure why. Maybe Spyderco feels like it overlaps other products in their line. Let's talk real quickly about dimensions. And it's very similar in size to some other knives, probably because it's just a great size for everyday carry. We have a blade about 3.4 inches long, a full 4 millimeters thick, and that is a huge part of this review and the story of this knife. The handle about 4.6 inches long, an overall length of about 7.9 inches. The knife is constructed using VG10 steel, G10 scales, medium texture, pretty good grip. It does have full stainless steel liners. It uses Spyderco's excellent compression lock system, very similar, but not quite the same as the Paramilitary 2. The configuration is Spyderco's really well executed 50-50 or, I don't know, 40-60 choil in this case. The clip is tip up, left or right hand carry, as you can see, and if you know me, you know why. This one's set up for left hand carry. Must have come out of the box right hand carry because it still has marks where the wire clip rubbed on the G10 a little bit, as the wire clip is prone to do. What would you use this knife for? Well, in my world, this is a very versatile everyday carry knife. Small enough to be comfortable, large enough for heavy-duty cutting tasks. Could it be used as an emergency tactical or defensive knife? You betcha. With a 3.4-inch blade? You betcha. Here's why. Excellent ergonomics in either a standard grip or in a reverse grip. Let's talk about what I like about this blade. And what I like is a lot. First, I want to talk about construction and the place of origin, because this came as a pretty big surprise to me. As you might guess, because of its VG10 steel, it does come from Sakai City, Japan, one of 3 major centers for Spyderco manufacture. And in my experience, albeit limited, the Japanese produced Spydercos are not my favorite. I've had a couple Delicas and an Endura. Generally, I found them to be wanting in fit and finish quality. I've had lockup issues with them. Of course, they are lockback knives, and they're not the most precise lockback knives in the world. And in comparison to my Golden Colorado produced or Taiwanese Spydercos, they come in third. I have to say that impression or that expectation was absolutely blown away by this knife for a lot of reasons. First of all, the satin finish on the blade, if I can get my fingerprints off it. The satin finish on this blade is gorgeous. And because it's VG10, it's got that shimmer that you don't see with any other kind of blade steel. I don't know if I can really do this justice with this camera. But you don't have to look very hard at a knife to know it's VG10. The blade play is nil up and down, inside to side, with an asterisk. Because this knife uses Teflon washers instead of phosphor bronze, they do crush a little. They do have some give. That is not blade play. That just means that Teflon isn't a very hard material, and it does give a little. Another area where this knife shines in fit and finish is as you look at the edge of it. I don't know if you can pick this up super well in the camera, but the finish of the liners, the way that they're matched to the scales, is absolutely perfect. Although it's different, the finish quality on this knife is definitely on a par with my Gale Bradley. It's better than my Sage 1. There's been some extra steps in the machining of these liners. They are not water jet or laser cut out of finished stock. They are sanded. It almost looks like a hand-rubbed satin finish on these edges. It's flawless and perfect. There's not one tool mark. And if we look inside the knife, see the reflection off those liners? That's not a finished stock. These have been ground for flatness. This is just a level of finish I'm not used to seeing from the Japanese-produced Spydercos, and again, it is excellent. Another byproduct of that is, if you've watched any of my knife videos, you know I tend to take them apart and tweak them, work on them, make them better. I haven't touched a screw on this knife, and it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. I will say this, I do prefer the bushing pivot system in the Paramilitary 2 and how it works with the compression lock. If you notice, I'm going to go ahead and depress the lock. This knife does not drop free. It almost does, but you have to give it a little shake. Although it's very smooth, it is not as free as a well-done Paramilitary 2 with the bushing pivot. But you know, it's so good at doing what it does, I'm not really going to knock the knife for that. Now, before I bought this, I watched a lot of reviews about the Superleaf. I didn't run out and buy it the first time I saw it because, frankly, a lot of guys had some negative comments in their reviews of this knife. People referred to it as a Paramilitary 2 without the good pivot and a different blade. Some people referred to it as a Manix 2 with a compression lock. It's neither of those, frankly. It is its own knife, and it's different in some very important ways. First of all, let's go back to the thickness, this 4mm blade. It's much more robust than a Manix. It's more robust than a Paramilitary 2, especially when we get out to this tip. The tip is very thick. And if you've been watching my reviews long, you'll notice I don't have a lot of super thick, overbuilt knives. Because I really like my knives to cut. I don't think pocket knives should be folding hatchets with 4-inch handles. I'm not sure what purpose that really serves in a folding knife. Having said that, it is nice to have some beef on a knife, especially when you're going to use hard. This knife really does both very well. It is a great cutter, a great slicer, because it comes to a pretty thin dimension right behind the cutting edge, but still with great strength. Let's talk a minute about the steel choice. And because it comes from Sakai City, it's got VG10. Do I like paying over $100 for a knife that doesn't have S30V or another super steel? No, it wouldn't be my first choice. Having said that, VG10 is not a bad steel. Has it been surpassed in the last few years by other steels that perform a little better? Yes, it has. Is it adequate? Absolutely. Takes a keen edge, holds an edge well enough, easy enough to resharpen, and again, it is a beautiful blade steel. How was the edge? Well, I did resharpen this knife on the Edge Pro when I got it, and you can see the beautiful polished Edge Pro edge. However, this edge, as it came from Spyderco, was extremely symmetrical, extremely well ground, and when I set up the Edge Pro by sort of Spyderco factory specs, which would be a 15-degree per side primary bevel, all I did really was remove scratches. I didn't reprofile at all. It came pretty much to spec from Spyderco. I put about a 20-degree micro bevel on it when I got done, and I think it's a pretty good cutter. Let's take a look. Well, I thought it was a pretty good cutter. There we go. Not bad at all. Get some of my paper out of the way. It is a hair whittler, and it ought to hold up pretty well. Here's another area where some guys knocked this knife a little bit, and it was in the ergos. And I gotta say, if you see one of those reviews, pay no mind. Mainly the problem lies in the orientation of the two choils versus the thumb ramp. If you've carried a Sage or a Para 2, you're going to notice that this thumb ramp is farther back this direction in relation to the forward choil than the other knives are. However, in the Sage and the Para 2, when you're using a standard grip, it almost seems like a reach to the thumb ramp. In this knife, it's perfect. If you move to the forward choil, the thumb ramp does seem to be a little too far back, but it just sort of begs your thumb to be up on the spine, where it maybe ought to be anyway, to do fine work. So I'm not going to knock the knife for that, as others have. Here's one great thing about the Superleaf that other leaf-shaped Spydercos don't have. Do you see this belly? You'll not find that in a Mannix or a Sage or any other leaf-shaped Spyderco. This knife is made to use and cut, and it does it very, very well. I would say this knife is thick done right. It's kind of sad that it's being discontinued. The good news is, for those of us who have them, it's discontinued. I think the collectability of this knife will be great as years go by, because what was probably an underappreciated blade from Spyderco will go up in value, I predict. The compression lock on this knife is maybe a little tougher to get, especially if you're a lefty, than the Para 2. The cutout seems to be a little smaller and a little more squared off. It doesn't fit the roundness of your thumb quite as well as the Para, but I'm getting used to it. That was pretty good. So how does the Superleaf work for all your Spydie slick little moves? Well, you can deploy with middle finger, very, very well. You can flick out with your thumb very fast. Spydie drop, you betcha. That wasn't the best one I've ever done. Let's try that again. I'm at the mercy of the camera a little bit here. There we go. Of course. And how about just dropping it, flicking it out this way? Perfect detent. So what's my overall opinion of this knife? Well, guys, it's too nice not to have. Is it worth the price? You bet it is. Although the steel might not be what you'd expect in this price point, I can tell you the fit and finish and build quality of this knife are more $200 quality than $100 quality. Get them while you can. I'm going to link a video, if it's still up, from Campfire Talk, who was the original owner of this knife. He put up a video a few days ago for a source that he has a relationship with to purchase the discontinued Superleaf at a discounted rate. It was a pretty good buy. I actually contacted him to tell him that I would be exercising that discount code, and he offered to sell me his. I paid less than the discounted price because because he offered, and then I decided to throw in some sharpening for him. Video to follow. But overall, guys, you can't miss with a Superleaf if you are a Spyderco guy. Even if you're not a Spyderco guy and you just need a, let's say, a moderately priced, very high quality, everyday carry utility knife, this is one to have. And that's about all I got for today. Grace to you and peace from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. Talk to you soon, gang.